the recent news. We got some stuff going on here. We were just talking about the AEW in Albuquerque, and reports surfaced yesterday that AEW was paying over $100 per person for seat fillers at the event. The taping included Dynamite and Collision. They filmed them both on the same night. Multiple attendees and sources confirmed compensation for showing up and sitting ringside throughout the evening. Imagine getting paid to go sit ringside at a wrestling event. That sounds awesome. That's just me though. Additionally, arena staff and surrounding employees were offered free tickets to give out to people that they knew to help pad the attendance numbers. This raises questions about AEW's current attendance strategy and public perception management. This kind of, I mean, companies have padded attendance numbers for a long time, but
those companies aren't having 2,000 people in a fucking arena. They probably have double that, and they just didn't, they weren't comfortable with 4,000, so they wanted 5.
Right, and they are. What do they have? Like 2,000 something, and that said that there was like 500 tickets that they didn't sell.
Yeah.
So how many of these tickets did they pay people the $100 and give to them, and how many tickets did they give away to these employees and shit like that?
So, you remember who was it? Maven that visited Tony.
Yeah, it was actually a decent video.
Yeah, but
it seemed like it's probably a work, but it was.
This goes along with what I was saying. It felt like it was kind of like a paid thing. It wasn't random. Like it was kind of like at the time, it felt like there was a lot of positive stuff popping up in the news with Tony. Like, remember some random guy that you never heard of posted these max viewership figures that weren't necessarily real, or people just didn't understand what they were. And I don't know. I feel like you can spin this shit however you want, but when it comes to viewership and attendance, there's no sugarcoating it. They're not doing great, And when people are trying to celebrate having a show that does 630K, it kind of shows you how far this shit's fallen. And I know that they have more people watching the show with Max, and it's not all bad. And the pay-per-views do pretty well. They've got to be the number 2 pay-per-view selling company on the planet right now. It's if you're not counting boxing, but if you're counting people that do it every month as a company, it's UFC and then AEW, I believe. They're doing around 100 to 150K every time. That's pretty impressive to me. But beyond that, they don't know their markets. I've really been liking these smaller places that they go to, and when they can fill a place with 3,000 people, it's not bad. But they're definitely giving away military tickets for free in every show that they go to. I've actually experienced seeing the seat fillers at events that I've been to before. I was kind of confused, but I think it's actually the first AEW event that I went to. I was almost at the front row. I was probably fourth row, third row. And I saw this group of people running around, and it's the AEW staff were kind of showing them where to sit, I guess, to make it look better for that segment. And, they're not the first company in the world to do this, but, if you want to spin perception, reality is perception, right? And it's not the best look. But what are you going to do? But we can jump into the next one that's kind of pretty related to this. But AEW Dynamite dropped this week for 514 versus 521. So the 514 episode, which was last week, they had 682. They actually were showing a positive trend, They were going up a little bit here and there, which is pretty decent.
Yep.
If they started to crawl back into 700K, I think it'd be a really big win for them. Especially considering they have the Max stuff going on. Then it's wouldn't be bad, but it seems like every time they take a step forward, a big one back happens. But then we jumped to this week, yesterday, and it was May 21st, 2025, and the viewership was down to 575K, which that's a huge drop. That's over 100K, and if you do the percentage of their audience, that's a large fucking chunk. Their demo was down too. The demo last week was 0.17, and then this week it was 0.15. So it's 107K difference, and then their demo was 0.02 Just it's a large decline, and who knows if it's fan fatigue, increased competition, disinterest in the current storylines. But I don't know. This just comes days before Double or Nothing, which is their pay-per-view that's happening, and usually the go-home show would get steady viewership to be better, right? But
and that may not bode well for the purchasing of the pay-per-view if that many people are disinterested in watching your show to the show before the pay-per-view. It doesn't really speak well to fan interest. But yeah, like you said, it could have been fan fatigue, or the increased competition. I don't know what else.
The competition was there last year this week, man, and didn't
they do really good last week against like basketball or something?
Go ahead.
I think that might have been Collision.
Look that up if you want, if we got time. I mean, I don't know if we do, but I just know that there was multiple times this year where the same exact thing has happened, and that's been the excuse, and it was nowhere near those numbers. I can't pull it off at the top of my head, but it happened last month. Pretty sure it happened the month before that. And you bring this stuff up to certain people, and they never have an answer for it, right? They're kind of I don't know what to put it.
They get really indignant with you, and it's like, well, I'm not offering you an opinion or being negative.
It just is what
I'm offering you, statistical, factual information. WrestleNomics doesn't lie. It's the standard for all of this information that everybody looks at that does wrestling news, wrestling podcasts. Like all of that information either comes from WrestleNomics, which is an easy place to be able to get it because it's all there right in front of you, or you have to go to Nielsen and sift through everything, which WrestleNomics has already done for you. So why wouldn't you just look at their website? Yeah. But
That's
anyway,
a very good point.
And just do better with your show so that it doesn't lose 107,000 people week to week. If you keep doing that, you'll be off the fucking air pretty soon.
I want to add one more thing too before we move on to the next one, but I know I'm a little bit harsh, and I know Dave can be too, but it's mainly because we're just passionate, and I feel like, and I think Dave will share the same opinion with me, that this is going to be the only billionaire that's going to privately fund a wrestling company in our lifetime. It's the only shot that we have in our lifetime for a legitimate competitor with WWE. If this doesn't succeed, we will never see this again. I can promise you that. It will never, ever happen. So, just take that for what it is, and just, hold these companies accountable to have a better product, WWE and AEW. But WWE isn't going anywhere. And I don't think AEW is, because even if they're not making money, they have a lot of money in the family. So they'll keep this going as long as they want to. But, just...
we didn't have a show in 2019, 2020, but, I honestly was more of a fan of AEW in those probably like first 3 years. And, because there was competition, it forced WWE to step their game up and improve their product. And now they're back to being the superior product. Hopefully AEW figures it out, because, those first 2 or 3 years, man, were really something special. And I don't know what has happened, but something. But anyway, moving on.
They say every good booker only has a year, right, or 2, and then you should switch it off and on. Remember, that's what they did back in the day with a lot of them.
Yep. NWA and WCW did that a lot early on.
Yep, but I think that was like Dusty's thing. Like, he'd do it and then be like, all right, I need a break.